now starting a new chapter. This is chapter 6 in the Gongchik. So altogether, there are 7 main chapters. Altogether, there are 7 main chapters and 1 auxiliary chapter. In the auxiliary chapter, there are 46 Vajra statements that are considered to be kind of extra statements that are already covered in what is in the main 7 chapters. So these are nonetheless considered to be very unique statements that Kyobpa Rinpoche made, but then in order not to be overly repetitive, then the compiler of these statements, Chenga Sherab Junne, put these 46 statements in chapter 8. But anyway, chapter 6, this chapter, the title of this chapter is View, Practice, and Conduct. Sometimes also translated as View, Meditation, and Conduct, or you could also translate it as View, Cultivation, and Conduct. Cultivate here is cultivating the mind. Conduct has to do with how we act in the world. View is like our understanding. In some ways, you could say, at the core of the Buddha's spiritual path, what is highlighted as at the heart of the Buddha's path is basically a path that says, because of mistaken views, because of wrong view, because of not seeing things as they are, therefore, our actions of body, speech, and mind become causes of suffering. So in a way, you could say, the main problem to be solved is a problem relating to view. But if you think, so all I need to do is to figure out the view, it also won't work, because you cannot really refine your view independent of first cultivating, practicing, and meditating, meaning changing the mind, changing our habitual patterns, our mental, emotional, habitual patterns. We have a set of mental and emotional habitual patterns that are caught up often in the causes and effects of suffering, so that it's on cruise control all the time. Automatically, it generates the suffering. So without applying practice, without applying meditation, without applying cultivation of the mind, the view cannot be refined. Furthermore, if we just talk about the view, and then on the level of conduct, on the level of how we relate to the world, we still engage again in the causes of suffering, then no way, this unobstructed view can ever arise. So therefore, when it comes to what we need, for this path is also, path is a poetic word for the process. What do we need for this process of awakening? We need view, meditation, and conduct. All 3. So the Vajra statements in chapter 6 pertain to view, meditation, and conduct. Some of you might remember that in the two earliest commentaries on the Gongchik, these two commentaries were composed by people who knew Jigten Sumgon, who studied with Jigten Sumgon. One of them is Rinchen Changchup, was probably the brother of Sherab June. And the other one, Sherab, was another disciple. We don't have a lot of information beyond knowing that Dorje Sherab was a disciple of Jigten Sumgon, but also later became, I think, disciple of Sherab June. So it's within, you would say, 50 years of Kyobpa Rinpoche's passing that these two early commentaries were written. Now, interestingly, in these two early commentaries, the chapters are arranged differently. One way of arranging the chapters is the way that Khenpo Kunpal's commentary is based on. So chapter 6 is view, practice, and conduct, or view, meditation, and conduct. Chapter 3, 4, 5. Chapter 3 is the individual liberation vows, right? Chapter 4 is bodhisattva training, and chapter 5 is secret mantra. 3, 4, 5, in both ways of arranging the chapters, they are the same. 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Then, in the Rinchen Changchup, okay, it's actually in this book here, so let me take you there. So in Rinchen Changchup's commentary, chapter 1 is what's chapter 6 for us. So he puts the Vajra statements that we are now going to start to look at the very beginning. Then chapter 2 is actually chapter 3, 4, 5. Individual liberation, bodhisattva training, secret mantra. And those three are always in that sequence. First, individual liberation, bodhisattva vow, secret mantra, in Rinchen Changchup's arrangement. This is on 53 if you have the physical book. It shows you Rinchen Changchup's 7 chapters. Chapter 1 is the chapter that we now are going to look at, which we call chapter 6. Then their chapter 2 is the chapter on Vinaya, then bodhisattva training, then secret mantra. Then chapter 5 is the chapter on the 3 turnings of the Dharma wheel, which in our arrangement, in Khenpo Kunpal's arrangement, and Khenpo Kunpal is following earlier commentaries as well, is what is chapter 1, the 3 turnings of the Dharma wheel. But that chapter in Rinchen Changchup's commentary is chapter 5. Then chapter 6 is the chapter on dependent origination. And then chapter 7, both systems, both versions, same, which is the chapter on the ultimate fruition of Buddhahood. So mainly the significance here is to say that in one of the early commentaries of the Gongchik, what we are now going to look at as chapter 6 is actually chapter 1. So in a way you could say, oh, Rinchen Changchup considered the Vajra statements in this chapter to be most important. And so he starts the whole collection with these Vajra statements. When we were studying the longer commentary during lockdown, the longer commentary, there I discovered that, or I felt, maybe discovered is so strong, too strong a word, as if it's really there and I found it. I don't mean to suggest that, but I felt that if you take what is now in this considered to be chapter 1 and what is now considered chapter 6, if you took those two chapters and you read them at the same time, I feel like there is a connection between the two chapters. In other words, if you could treat the two chapters, 1 and 6, as equally a good place to start, then some of those respective Vajra statements in chapter 1 and chapter 6, like 1:1 and 6:1, they you could sort of get them to talk to each other, so to say. You can see some kind of connection and interaction between the two. So I'll give one example, which is the example of 6:1. 1:1, if you recall, 1:1 is basically, the statement in 1:1 is, we'll look at that here. The statement in 1:1 is, the Buddha taught the actual reality of the nature or state of all phenomena. In the translation that we have here, it says, the Buddha taught the actual reality of the nature or state, or you could say appearance of all phenomena. The way things are and the way they appear to be. What did the Buddha teach? The Buddha taught. The Buddha showed the actual reality of all things in terms of their nature and their appearance. So 1:1 emphasizes the timeless and universal nature of Buddha Dharma, in the sense of, you could even say, with or without Buddhas appearing in the world, what Buddhas teach continue to be true, continue to be the way things are. In other words, what Buddhas teach, what Buddhas are helping us realize and to awaken to, is not dependent on whether Buddhas exist or don't exist in the world. With or without enlightened beings telling us all things are impermanent, impermanence is true. With or without Buddhas telling us happiness comes from a chain of causes and conditions, suffering comes from a chain of another different chain of causes and conditions. With or without Buddhas present, with or without Buddhas telling us, that is true. In other words, the truth, as much as having Buddhas indicate to us the truth, is such a great and wonderful and unimaginable benefit, as much as that is the case, more basic than that, with or without Buddhas explicitly or implicitly teaching these things are true. All afflicted thoughts, emotions are painful by nature. Meaning any kind of thoughts or emotions that is tainted by the subject-object divide, by duality, necessarily entails pain. Again, with or without Buddha's teaching us that, with or without us wanting to accept or not accept that, that remains true. All composite things are impermanent, unreliable, uncertain. With or without Buddhas, that is true. So 1:1 emphasizes the universality. In that sense, you could say one is making a statement about how the timeless and unchanging truth that the Buddha did his best to guide us to realize that ourselves. Now 6-1. How does 6-1 talk to 1-1? How does the 6-1 help us with understanding 1-1? 6-1 is a balance, I would say. Provides balance to 1-1. Now how? How does 6-1 provide balance to 1-1? Basically, 6-1 says, 6-1 says, which is our first line, our first statement in this chapter, any sacred Dharma teachings that are connected with the lineage are profound, is profound. Or another translation, which is those Dharma teachings that come to us through a lineage, through a succession of individuals. Those kinds of Dharma teachings are truly profound. So what 6-1 does is to ground us so that we don't go so universal in 1-1 until there's no reference point, to is this really the Buddha's teachings or not? So 1-1 is emphasizing the universality. 6-1 is providing particularity. So we need to have a broadness of mind that can come from understanding 1-1, the universal aspect. But that universal aspect may not be accessible to us, may not be so digestible to us, and so then 6-1 emphasizes the specialness of the qualities of those teachings that come to us through a succession of individuals who have they themselves received the teachings, cultivated the teachings, and actualized the teachings. So what this is also saying is, it's not just you saying, oh, this is a lineage, and therefore it becomes a lineage. That lineage has to really have lineage, meaning it's not just passed down by mouth from generation to generation, but the experience and the realizations associated with the words that are passed on from mouth to ear to mouth to ear, those words have to be blessed by experience and realizations. Then that is authentic. That is the lineage that we're talking about. Even if, the names in that lineage from generation to generation are obscure, unknown, practically unknown names, that's secondary. More primary is that transmission, that lineage is not just a transmission of sound, but also a continuity of experience and realization. And so here 6-1 is emphasizing the practical side of how do we access, how do we connect ourselves to these teachings. It says, better you connect yourself to these teachings to a source that comes down from person to person to person to person, from Buddha Shakyamuni down to your own person. This is also, I think, good, kind of as a caution to us not to make the mistake of just finding your own, coming up with your own prescriptions after you have been given a diagnosis, or worse, self-diagnosing by going on the internet. My tongue looks kind of white. I think I have a ringing sound on my right ear. Tak, 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 tak. Oh, I have this condition. Oh, I have that condition. Self-diagnosing, and then self-prescribing, and then sending off, money order, to Mexico, to Canada, if you're in the US, finding some doctors to send you medicine. A lot of us, because we are impatient, also because we think, I can do it, and then the internet has so much information, spiritual information. A lot of us self-diagnose and self-prescribe and never quite connect to a teacher, a set of teachers, a lineage, and to be able to benefit from being supported by a lineage. So here 6.1 is emphasizing the skillfulness of connecting with this type of connection. So in particular, this statement 6.1 is in response to those who claim that dharmas that appear without transmission lineage, such as so-called earth teachings, teachings that somebody found, while digging the earth. They found a book, inside a box, hidden underground. Or space teachings. They say, we saw the words appearing in space, Then now we have these teachings. Or treasure teachings. Like concealed treasures. So there are some who say, these are more profound and amazing. Meaning the more supernaturally originated teachings, they are more profound. In fact, yes, some Tibetan Buddhist traditions do say, for example, they say, the termas that so-and-so received recently, some great Lama recently received a vision and was given a particular practice. And so that practice is very powerful. Why? They say because the lineage is short, and by short they mean not contaminated yet. And so there's a particular logic to that. I don't deny that. Personally, I get, that particular logic that says, that, this particular practice that was just revealed, dug up from the ground, or, fell from the sky, or came to someone in a vision. Because on the one hand, there's emphasis of lineage, but here the lineage is very short, meaning, the implication is, therefore, the practice is very pure. Right? So there is that view. In fact, you will come across that, if not already, you have come across that view. But here, Kyobpa is emphasizing, actually, the long lineage, the lineage with the long transmission, the fact that it has come down to us now means that it has been tried and tested and affirmed to be true. It's sort of like saying, that candy maker have been selling this for 4 generations now. Like, oh, that candy must be good. Of course, there's no guarantee, like now the 5th generation decides to cut corners and cut cost and compete with the global market, la 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 la. Yes, maybe they will ruin the candy. But nonetheless, that principle of, for 8 generations, they have been making this candy. Oh, yes, there is something special there. So don't always, just like, oh, this is something new, or this is something very amazing, this is something very, the very direct, directly from the Buddha. Somebody last week received this practice, this teaching, and then rush, oh, give me the empowerment, give me the empowerment, In a way, you could say, because there is a long lineage, so every generation, they have digested this, so that it becomes, pre-digested for us. So we are like little birds, we need to eat, pre-digested food so that we can digest and absorb the nutrients much better. Yes, that image is maybe not so appetizing, Mama bird, yum, 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 and but it's pre-digested. It has been tried, it has been tested, and it is verified to work and to be true. So this is 6.1, is emphasizing this. Now let's look at Khenpo Kunpal's commentary, which is a little long here. Partly because Khenpo Kunpal comes from the lineage of Tibetan Buddhism, the Nyingma lineage, where of all the different lineages, the Nyingmas are, generally speaking, most open to teachings that came yesterday or last week or last month or 2 generations ago. They all, Nyingma lineage has a lot of these dharmas. Again, don't misunderstand. Jigten Sumgon is not wholesale criticism or wholesale attack of the phenomena of dharma. Other places you'll see that he accepts that they are Buddha's teachings, or at least, the ones that he sees clearly. He says, yes, of course, they are Buddha's teachings. So it's not a wholesale attack on the dharma tradition by any means. But it is emphasizing that aside from dharma, and also don't think, that because this is from the long lineage and therefore it is not as powerful or not as up to date as things that was just taught, just revealed, just dug up from the ground, got it from a spatial time capsule. And don't be biased in that way. So anyway, let's see what Khenpo Kunpal says. He says, for the fortunate persons who wish to accomplish the stable happiness of awakening, the only indispensable basis is the spiritual guide. One must follow a satisfying and authentic spiritual guide who is such that if one follows them, one will attain immeasurable qualities of the higher realms and nirvana. So it is said in the summary. So the summary is quoting a sutra. One should always follow the learned teachers, the gurus. Why is that? Because all qualities of learning come from them. And it is said in the Tantra, if one does not have a rower, the boat cannot travel across. Even if one has completely realized all qualities, If one does not have a guru, there is no end to existence, meaning there's no end to confuse existence if you don't have proper guides. So here Khenpo Kunpal begins this section without directly talking about the statement yet. He first is bringing us indirectly to the point about how teachings then come to us through a lineage, a succession of teachers and students are more profound. And then therefore, what are we talking about? We're talking about the important role of the guru, of the guide, of the teacher. So continuing. Furthermore, what kind of guru should one follow? You should follow someone who protects the three vows like they are protecting the apple of their eye through pure discipline. So disciplined conduct. And thereby keep the vows and pledges without transgressing the rules of what is to be adopted and what is to be discarded. Through pure discriminative wisdom, through prajna, he should be learned in the meaning of the sutras and tantras, and this person should be endowed with the view of experience. It should be endowed with experience. So they should be learned. They should know the sutras and the tantras and the commentaries. In order for someone to effectively function as a teacher, of course, having experience, having realization is important, but also important that they know how to teach, how to communicate. There are people who are themselves have good experience, good realization, but their words, they don't have enough formal knowledge to more effectively reach others. So it says here, if you are going to look for a guru, first, there should be someone who guard their vows, all three levels of vows, as if they're protecting their own eyes. So they're not loosey-goosey about things. They have discipline. That, it says, is first quality. Second quality is they have wisdom and they have knowledge. Knowledge is knowing all the things that they need to know in order to be an effective teacher. So if it's like a doctor, if you're a doctor that can only heal one or two conditions, like those village-trained traditional doctors, rather than someone who has gone through the medical system. So between the two, it's always good to have a teacher who is learned, has knowledge, but also know how to apply the knowledge to give rise to wisdom. Then, through pure benevolence, they should be endowed with great compassion that takes on the responsibility of others' benefit, that is motivated by pure, genuine concern for others. Thus, this motivation and practice should be genuine. Such excellent gurus should be endowed with the blessings of a transmission lineage and so forth, and should be endowed with the characteristics taught in the sutras and tantras. One should follow this person without deceit, meaning without hypocrisy on the student's end, and without the students concealing from their teacher their faults. If you conceal your faults from your teacher, then how in the world is the teacher going to help you? So without deceit in your body, speech, and mind activities, and with the three types of pleasing. So when you have met such teachers, such individuals, then you are to offer them material things. Footnote, don't spoil them, but do make sure that they are not so busy, right, trying to figure out their material needs so that they have no time, to teach you Dharma. Mainly, that's the point, right? You should offer them material needs and material things. Then offer them your service, what you can help them to do. That in particular service that helps them to teach more people, to reach out to more people, to be helpful to more people, offering your service to help them help others. And finally, and the most important one, you offer them your practice. Whatever they teach, you sincerely try to internalize and use to change your own mind. That is the best offering to give your teachers. Then continuing, merely by following someone who is the opposite of this, opposite of what he just described, just following them, the vows and pledges in one's own mind stream will be damaged, and your wisdom eye that looks out for what to adopt and what to avoid will be blinded. And since the mass of fire of desire and aversion will blaze, will burn strongly, it will burn the mind streams of oneself and others. Therefore, one should avoid, like aconite poison, the negative spiritual guides with bad motivations and actions, or the kinsmen of demons as well as negative friends, and instead practice the sacred Dharma. So be careful, be careful as well who you follow as teachers. This is a sensitive topic, but you should have discernment. Don't be suckers, as they say. You should have discernment. So towards all teachers, we don't need to be rude, but don't just take what appears on the surface. Have discernment. Don't need to abuse teachers that you don't know if they are qualified or not qualified, if they are genuine or not. I'm not saying you go around and be arrogant and disrespectful, but at the same time you should have discernment. Ask yourself, first of all, is this person helping me turn my mind to Dharma? Or am I liking this person for other reasons? Or, the more I follow this person's advice and example, the further I'm moving away from the task of removing mental defilements. Then, we're not following the teacher in the right way. Yeah? So anyway, concerning this Dharma, there are many authentic as well as superficial teachings. So one should examine them well and then adopt and avoid accordingly. So now, quoting the Vajra Statement, any sacred Dharma teachings of Sutra or Tantra should be transmitted from the Buddha or Vajradhara without the flavor of the blessings having vanished, and without the continuity of scriptures and reasoning being broken, because through self-fabrication and arrogance, they become like market milk. Market milk is the milk that you get from the market rather than the milk you get from the farmer directly. So this is talking about, in those days, you want pure, unmixed milk, you go straight to the farmer and stand there while, he or she is milking the cow. Then this milk is good. By the time they carry it to the market, you don't know how much water they have mixed into this milk. This is what it means. So the instructions that are connected with the trustworthy, unbroken lineage are profound and amazing. Then, in particular, Vajrayana should be endowed with the valid cognition of the Tathagata's words, and the valid cognition of the pith instructions of Vajra masters, the valid cognition. This valid cognition is a little too literal, the translation. It means like your Vajrayana practices, your Vajrayana understanding should have the proof of the Tathagata's words, meaning you can find them in the sutras or tantras. It needs to have the proof of experience of yogic masters, verified by the experience of yogic masters, and the proof of accounts of dependent origination, meaning cases where this has worked. Moreover, the streams of empowerment should not have declined and should be an unbroken lineage of supreme realization due to the medicine of the two profound stages being unspoiled. And so this is the creation stage and the completion stage. An instruction that has not fallen under broken pledges or the faults of demon possession has greater and more profound blessing powers than others. Therefore, one should practice such Dharma teachings, and one should not place one's trust in those that are called profound Dharma, while in actuality they are the opposite. These are Jigten Sumgon's instructions. Pamudrupa said, even if experiences arise at first, they are impermanent like clouds and lightning. It is the cause of the arising of the affliction of pride. And so even if you say, like, oh, I found this teaching, I'm going to practice, and then you have some kind of experience arising, that can happen, but watch out, your pride is now in control. Even if one boasts about one's pith instructions, what does not have a lineage is not Buddhist, meaning it's not the Buddhist way. And so you should not prioritize these special instructions, secret instructions, that cannot be verified, cannot be proven to be reliable and authentic through seeing them in the sutras and tantras, through the experience that others have had with these teachings to show that they are effective, and through the instructions of Vajra masters. Vajra master here means those who teach us Vajrayana, those who transmit Vajrayana teachings to us. So this is Khenpo Kunpal's commentary on 6.1. So today we are going to stop here. Then for those of you who are part of Drikung Dharmakirti, we will meet tonight, 7 New York time, so 5 Mexico time, 6 for folks in Arkansas, then for people in Malaysia, Singapore, we start at 7 a.m. Tomorrow. Here it's already Wednesday night. Yeah. So let's do dedication. Sublime venerable and glorious root and lineage gurus, assembly of Idam deities, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas dwelling in the 10 directions, and all assemblies of Viras, Viranis, Yoginis, and Dakinis, please heed me. May the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana and the inherent root of virtue not result in the 8 worldly dharmas, the 4 causes of samsara, and the resultant states of hearers and solitary realizers. And may all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, particularly those enemies who hate us, obstructors who harm, and those who create obstacles, maras who mislead, and their mara retinues, have happiness, be separated from suffering, and quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, precious Bodhi. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may we benefit sentient beings with body, speech, and mind. May the afflictive thoughts of attachment, aversion, ignorance, pride, and jealousy not arise in my mind stream. May thoughts of name, fame, gain, respect, and so forth in this life not arise for even a moment. With my mind stream moistened by love, compassion, and bodhicitta, may I come under the care of virtuous spiritual friends. And having become limitless as space, may I achieve the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. By the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious Bodhi. Oma, I hope you're not driving. Both your hands are not on your...
I just arrived.
Too much devotion.
Thank you.
Okay, tata everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Lopön.
Thank you, Dr. Lai.
Good night,
Thank you.
good day. Tata, see you all of you.
Gracias.